I'm here at Babylon. This is the Ishtar Gate. Well, it's not the real Ishtar Gate. The real Ishtar Gate was removed, oh God, a while ago by the Germans. They took it to Berlin. I've actually seen the real Ishtar Gate in the museum in Berlin. I didn't know it back then, 12 years ago when I was in Berlin. So this is where it was meant to be. So this is a recreation of what it would have been like. It's not in its original position. So, but this is it. This is what it would look like. When you were entering Babylon, you would have come through this grand gate entrance, the Procession Street, and we'll go further into the Grand Procession Street. This would have greeted you. So Babylon, God, is there a town that a city that people have heard of more than Babylon? The Great Gardens, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Even if you've never been here, or never been to Iraq, you would have heard of Babylon. If you haven't, maybe, I don't know, you're beyond help. So many civilizations have come and gone through here. You know, this is 4,000 years old, this city. So we'll go in and have a little bit of a look. I never thought that I'd be standing in front of the great gates of Babylon. Isn't that fun? So they started doing archaeological digs here at Babylon in the early 1900s. The original gate was moved to Berlin in about 1920. The original one this one's just painted. The original one was ceramic glazed, and it was really quite beautiful. This one here has been built, well, I guess to remind tourists that haven't had the opportunity to go to Berlin and have a look at the original, what it would have been like. So it's just more of an entrance for tourists, so they get a bit of an idea of what was here. But what a feat of, oh my God, they removed it all, almost brick by brick, in boxes, and took it to Germany and rebuilt the thing there. So if you're in Germany, if you're in Berlin, go and check out the original. It's quite cool. So this is the general layout of the city of Babylon. This here is the Great Tower, what they think the Great Tower of Babel, which nobody really knows how high it was. I was reading up on it this morning. Some people said it was up to like 12 kilometers high, which clearly wasn't. There's not much, there's just the foundations left of it now. There's nothing there now, so they don't actually know what it really looked like except through ancient descriptions of it. And probably the most famous part of Babylon are the Hanging Gardens. So we got it up here and down here, where the locations of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon would have been. They're also not there anymore. There's not a lot left of Babylon. This is the Euphrates River, which divided Babylon into two sections. King Cyrus from Persia, in about 500 BC, he dammed the river and changed its course. So it doesn't actually run through here anymore, but there's just a small little tributary of it now. And yeah, we'll go and have a little bit of a look around. Here's Ishtar Gate up here, and this is the Grand Procession Street, where all the kings would have come through. King Nebuchadnezzar, who pretty much built this, 600 BC. It was built here in about the 18th century BC, but King Nebuchadnezzar, he did the best work here in about 600 BC. This is one of the original paver blocks of the Procession Street, or the highway as they called it. And something that the Babylonians invented is cuneiform. Cuneiform is the very first written language, and is written on the side, so it had never been seen, but every single block, and also in the buildings of Babylon, was written with Nebuchadnezzar. I'm not going to get his king's name. Nebuchadnezzar's name, and you know, he built this place, and you could just make it out you guys probably can't see it, but it's written in lines across here. Maybe down here you can see it. Is cuneiform language. You can just see some lines here, and it's, yeah. So this is cuneiform. This is original. This is 6,000 years old. This script, the oldest script in the world. Actually, you can see it over here pretty well. And these are the blocks that made up the grand procession. So much of Babylon is yet to be discovered or unearthed. For example, here, this is the top of a grand, this is the original gate entrance, just the very top of it. The road that would have passed underneath here is 4 meters underneath, and you can see along here the original old mud brick. This is all original arch, and the original mud brick kind of goes along here. In the 1980s, Saddam Hussein built what he interpreted the whole wall would have been like, and he got a rap over the knuckles by UNESCO. Said you can't just build your modern brick structure on the foundations of, wow, 6,000 what is it, 4,000 year old building. This here is the Grand Procession Street that ran straight through, and it was used for the kings. They'd come through. You can imagine, you know, horse-drawn carriages. It would have been great fanfare. Nebuchadnezzar II came through here. Cyrus the Great from Persia, where I went to his temple in Iran, Persepolis, and Alexander the Great came through here, because Alexander the Great, this city here was the first city in the world to get to a population of 200,000 people. It was the largest city in the world, and it was a very important place. And so Alexander the Great, who explored all around the place, he decided when he got here somewhere around 300 or 400 BC, somewhere in between there, Babylon had fallen into a little bit of disrepair at that stage, and he decided he was going to make this the capital of his empire. And so he came through here. They also paraded through here exiled prophets, yeah, and I don't know, I guess he threw cabbages and tomatoes, and there'd be all people lining the streets here watching who was coming through on the procession. But these are some of the original tiles, the block work. So these are about 4,000 years old, and they actually used an ancient form of asphalt, which is what you can see here. They joined it all together, and it kind of looks like this black lava bubbling through it all. And the oldest asphalt in the world, still better than most of the roads where I live in North Queensland. So, yeah. So this is some of the grand entrances through into Babylon that the King Nebuchadnezzar would have taken, but none of the gates are in alignment. You can never get a good alignment with any of it. It was all built so each gate is slightly out from the next one, and that's so that he could never be assassinated by somebody standing at the other end. Could never get a clear shot straight. Of course they didn't have guns back then, but they had a bow and arrow or a very good spear or something like that. Chuck a hammer. So so each gate is slightly out of true with the one after it. So as I mentioned earlier, Saddam Hussein in the 80s went about trying to rebuild Babylon the way that, well, I guess it should have been. But yeah, UNESCO didn't approve what he was doing here because he didn't use traditional methods or bricks or anything like that. But one thing, and this sort of shows about the dictatorship and tyranny of Saddam Hussein, how he thought he was rebuilding a great civilization and he was going to be the king of that. So Nebuchadnezzar, when he built this, all the bricks were inscribed with his name in it. I built this city. When Saddam rebuilt this in the 80s, he did exactly the same thing. And you can see here, a lot of people have scribbled it out, every single brick has an inscription that was Saddam Hussein written in here. He thought he was equal to all the great kings of Babylon, of Babylonia. Every brick, it's crazy. So here's a bit of, and I got this earlier today, a sample of the inscription translates: "In the reign of the victorious Saddam Hussein, the President of the Republic, may God keep him, the guardian of great Iraq, and the renovator of its renaissance, and the builder of its great civilization." So you can kind of, I mean, Saddam Hussein thought that he was up there with Nebuchadnezzar and Cyrus, Alexander the Great. And there you go. You would have come through from the Great Procession Street up there, through these gates. This is heading into the South Palace. These rooms off to the side were all for government stuff. People on computers like writing emails that would never be responded to. This courtyard here was where you would have come in for processions, for very important guests and dignitaries and things like that would arrive. So we're going through these giant courtyards that didn't have roofs on them. 1, 2, this is the third courtyard. And you just went into these mazes of these giant areas here. So this courtyard here was the grand reception area, where if you were important enough, you would have come through the gates over here. You would have been received in here to great fanfare, horses and carriages or whatever. You would have been carried in. And then here is the great archway that led to the throne room. And here would have been the king's throne of Nebuchadnezzar. The old blockwork is actually here. You can kind of see where the original, and then where Saddam Hussein's stuff took over. So there is some of the old original stonework here. This is all old original here. And so you would have come through here. This would have been in its time ceramic glazed, like blue. They love their blue here. And so none of it's obviously there anymore. But all this entire outside wall, this arch, and inside, everything would have been this beautiful ceramic blue colours. And the roof on this was made of cedar, but it was all plated with gold and precious stones and silver, and it would have just been like, oh, amazing. And there would have been a large gold throne that was right here. So that was where the king would sit and receive the guests, the important guests that came through. Over here is the original cuneiform text from Nebuchadnezzar. So you can see it. Oh, can you get that? There it is. That's from about 600 BC. It's actually really well, like you can really sort of make it out. Like I thought it'd be a lot more weathered than that. So that cuneiform, and there's another one over here. The oldest written text in the world. That mentions, all of these mention King Nebuchadnezzar on it. So that's pretty crazy. You're just looking at something that's, wow, 2,500 years old, just written. And here, this is so this room, it's hard to make out what it would have been like, but this would have been just ornately decorated, the entire thing. And here is where King Nebuchadnezzar would have sat at his throne. And we've been up here and we would have watched his important guests coming through. King Cyrus the Great from Persia, from Iran, also came here, and he took over Babylon as part of the Persian Empire at a period there. But this is also a very important place because I've been following in some of the footsteps of Alexander the Great on this trip. Alexander the Great, as I mentioned earlier, wanted this to be the seat of his empire. This is going to be his capital city. And right here, stand here, whereas the throne would have been. This is exactly where Alexander the Great died. They believe of typhoid. Malaria and typhoid were pretty rife in this part of the world. The Euphrates River was just over here, and but they believe, yeah, typhoid took him and he died right in the throne, right here. They've never found where he was buried. Some people say he was taken to Egypt. I don't know why that would have been, but my guide believes that he's somewhere buried here in Babylon, which would make a lot of sense. He wanted this to be the seat of his kingdom, his empire. He died here. He's probably buried here. There's 2,000, I think it's only 2,000 acres of land makes up Babylon. There were 200,000 people living here at the peak of its time, and there's only the tiniest percentage of it has actually been unearthed. As we sort of saw earlier out there, where the gates are only just the tops of them are showing. So it's been very hard for archaeologists to get in here and do excavation work. So potentially one day, archaeologists will be able to get in here and really get stuck into it. And the things that they will uncover, never know, they might find the tomb. You would imagine that Alexander the Great would have been buried with great riches. Ooh, shall I start digging now? I think we should. During 2003 Allied forces invasion, I guess we'll call it, into Iraq, they were all based here in Babylon, in the grounds of Babylon. They flattened a lot of areas to park their helicopters and all their military equipment, and destroyed a lot of stuff. One thing that they did here is you can see every brick that had Saddam Hussein's name inscripted in it. Well, not everyone, because here's one that's like survived. If they had Saddam Hussein, they extracted them out of the bricks. So the Polish and the American troops were all based here in the in the grounds of Babylon, driving army tanks and all sorts of things around. Yeah, they did a little bit of damage here. From here on, there was 2 levels of inner walls. These are the original walls. There's one here, there's one here, there's another one. And then way over there is the outer wall, and it had a giant moat around it. But if you got through the moat, the outer wall, the 3 inner walls, which you can see quite well here, you then had to pass through a maze. Yeah, I've never seen this anywhere, but it's absolute genius. They've built a maze that if you came through it all, and it goes the whole way around, so there's like the inner palaces and the courtyards and everything in there, you had to get through a maze. See if we can get a better look from up on this inner wall here. I have been told by the guide that it's okay for me to go up here. So how's that? That is absolutely insane. This maze goes the whole way around. Whole way around it all. So I mean, if you were an invading force, you had a lot to deal with to take Babylon. That is wild. And then up here on the hill, we'll go and have a look at this soon. This is Saddam Hussein's summer palace, which he built, well, up on some of the important archaeological sites. He built the mound himself. That's not a natural hill, and he built his palace up there. So the inner walls, they went for 9 kilometers around the city. God knows how big the moat would have been, because I don't even know where the outer walls are of this thing. Oh, there somewhere. Okay, this here, over here where we've been walking through, where Saddam Hussein did his renovation works, that is the South Castle, or the South Palace region. This here is the North Castle, or North Palace. So nothing has been renovated here. This is the original excavation works, I believe, that Germans did 100 years ago. A lot of the artifacts that they found here are in Berlin. But you can see how deep down the level is here, that they've had to dig to get down to the ruins of Babylon. and how very little of it is actually been exposed or excavated. Archaeological work's done. 2,000 acres of Babylon, and they've done bugger all, haven't they? And so nothing has been touched here. These are the original ruins of Babylon. It's pretty cool to see what's going on here. Imagine what is like right underneath my feet right now. You look all around, you look here, there's just hills and stuff. It's just, wow. Hopefully one day, imagine the riches, the gold that's underneath my feet. So, a little interesting point. So when Germany was in here doing their archaeological work, it's just before World War I broke out. And as the British troops were heading this way, the Germans decided they just wanted to get all the loot that they possibly could get from Babylon. So they dug tunnels. There's a little tunnel here, and all underneath here, apparently there's tunnels dug in. They're not original. That was the Germans were digging in just to places where they thought that they might find gold or, you know, precious stones and all the rest of it. So yeah, they just loaded it all up and got the heck out of here before the British came in. Here's the famous Lion of Babylon. This is made out of basalt, weighs 5 ton. So the lion is meant to depict Babylon, the strength and the power of Babylon. There's a person lying underneath here who's meant to represent the enemy, and how Babylon will always get the better of them. You can see, maybe you can see here, the person underneath has their hand in the lion's mouth. It's kind of like fighting it off. And around this side, the sun's not in a great position, but over this side here you can see his arm is here. So he's kind of like fighting the lion, but it's kind of meant to depict, doesn't matter how hard the enemy fights, the lion, Babylon, will always end up on top. Frustratingly, at the end of the 18th century, Turkish were instructed to try to destroy this during the Ottoman Empire, and so they hit it with a cannon and they smashed the face off of the lion. It's always so annoying when countries, and it's happened recently, just try to destroy artifacts, like ancient artifacts. This is from 600 BC. It's lasted 2,500 years, and the Turkish come and try to blow it up, so it doesn't have its face anymore. Here's another continuation. So the Procession Street, where we looked at it earlier, is way up there. It carries right on through. Either side of this would have had beautiful ceramic glazing, blue glazed tiles would have covered both sides. It would have been absolutely beautiful. That's pretty cool. Looks like it kind of ended here. This was the end. You would have been standing here just like, hey Kingy, what's going on, mate? And he would have gone, oh, I'm doing sicky, bro. Oh, that's cool, mate. Hope you're being good up there with your kingdom. I'm just down as a pleb under my date palm, trying to keep cool. So, I forgot the name of the temple I'm in. This is a temple to women, as far as I could understand from the guide, that it was where you would come if you wanted to marry somebody or if you wanted more children. There's also a place that they believe had healing powers. So when Alexander the Great he was feeling a little bit woozy, and he knew he wasn't far off from dying, but he didn't want to die. So he's like, what can you do? So he came here, he prayed, and he drank from this well. This well was from about 600 BC. This is still original stone, and he drank from here and died shortly after. Didn't really work for him. Maybe he would have survived a little bit longer. Maybe he didn't have his water purification tablets. Something that I learnt that I didn't know when I was looking at the Great Procession Road is that this bubbling up of the asphalt that you can see here, this isn't original. So it wasn't original on the other one. This is a new technique that they tried, but didn't work. It all turned to liquid and just came bubbling back up through the cracks of it. The original asphalt is underneath here and is still holding pretty well. So the older techniques are doing better than the newer techniques. You can see it all through here, it all just like bubbled up. Okay, here you go, this is all the original mud. This is 2,500 years old. They made this one out of more mud and straw because they believed that mankind was made out of mud and straw. This here is the procession street. When the Germans came here and were doing their excavations, there was a large hill, and they started doing some excavations when they found the Ishtar Gate. What they didn't know was, they figured that, oh yeah, everything ran through at this level. Up here was the Ishtar Gate, the one that is now sitting in Berlin. It's got the blue ceramic on it. It was very beautiful. And they took that off to Berlin. And they kind of stopped about there because they figured, oh, that's it. This is just foundations. What they didn't realise is that down here, this is the original old, so 8 meters down it goes. The original Ishtar Gate only come to this height. And that's because this used to be the level of all of Babylon down here, 8 meters lower, but it got flooded when the Euphrates flooded. So this is the early older stages. This is probably about 4,000 years old down here. And in the later stages under Nebuchadnezzar, he built it up to its current level of the road that's coming through here now. So you would have come through, this would have been the grand gate that would have received you in, and then you would have gone through into the inner palaces. Yeah, so the original, it was pre them figuring out how to do ceramic glazing work. And you can see, I don't know if you can see it here, there's like they're gods. See if we can get a little bit closer. One that looks like just a bull. This one here is a little bit funky. It's got a dragon's head. It's covered in, they believe, either snake or shark skin, and it's got a scorpion tail, lion's front feet, and eagle's rear feet on it. I don't know if you can make that out, but they run the whole way down here, either side of the gate. So this is the original one, much older than the blue glazed one. So it would have been when they built the big blue glazed one on top of it at the newer level. You would have come through, it would have been, well, I mean the height of the second Ishtar Gate on top would have been massive. It's amazing to be able to see these here. These are the original, nothing's been touched up with these. They run the whole way down. The fact that they're 4,000 years old, and in the ones down the bottom in really good condition. The fact that they've survived, God, how many wars, you know, and it's still here showing, that's pretty wild. Here's a list of all the kings of Babylon. To begin with, it was the Akkad dynasty, yes, 2300 BC. Oh, we've got old Sargon, reigned from that to that. There we go. It's interesting seeing the dates go backwards, yeah, because we worked from zero, I guess, you know, from BC or AD. So they're all going backwards in dates. First dynasty of Babylon, and the 18th century, Middle Babylonian. And then it really kind of came into its own
Assyria
through here. So this is Nebuchadnezzar was here, so 600.
in 579 BC.
Yeah.
Babylon was occupied by the Persian king who was called Cyrus of Darius.
This is Cyrus.
Yeah.
Ah.
In 579 BC, Babylon was occupied by Cyrus.
Ah,
this
okay,
is
from Persia.
the last king from Babylonia.
Ah.
Then Alexander the Great.
Okay, so the last king of Babylonia,
Number
539. Did he die, or he was?
Yeah, and he died.
He died.
He left Babylon to Saudi.
Ah, okay. And
he
then
killed in this year.
okay, and
Then,
that's when Cyrus the
Persian
Great.
king Cyrus in this year occupied Babylon.
Yeah, 539. Cyrus the Great. Boom, came on in. Okay. Most intriguing. And then after Cyrus the Great came Alexander the Great. They all gave themselves great at the end, didn't they? Can I just call myself Jake the Great? So in this room depicts 50 different pictures of what they think the Great Tower of Babylon or Babel looks like. So we got some of these ones here. And they was just a big high doodad like that. Probably what a lot of people think when they think of the Babylon Tower is a big round one like this. But they tend to believe that's incorrect. Wrong, wrong. They believe that the square shape is the one that it would have been more likely to be like. So again, depiction of a round one, wrong. And yeah, so there was a lot of thought that it was a big round tower. Here's, well, a bit of a plan of what Babylon would have looked like. This is the outer wall, which was 20 kilometers around. It also had a moat on the outside of it. And then you had the 3 inner walls, each one higher than the next, with the moat around it. And we've got the Procession Street here. This is where the tower would have been. The Great Tower of Babel would have been here. And over in here was the 5 courtyards and the throne where Alexander the Great died. And this was, where's the maze? So, this is all housing. So this is where all the citizens of Babylon lived, was all in here. But pretty much they haven't found sweet bugger all of it. Like most of it's still sitting under the ground. So yeah, this is kind of what they believe that the Great Tower of Babylon would have looked like. 90 meters high, they reckon. And the top of it would have been blue with the glazed ceramic blue. Wow, they really thought that it was a big round one, eh? Oh, and the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, they reckon were probably situated about here somewhere. He's got his little green doodad, yeah, about here somewhere. So that's where Alexander the Great, that's where the throne room is. The tower would have been here. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon there. This is the Euphrates. So the original Euphrates course of its river came through and divided Babylon into 2 parts. This would have been where the citizens of Babylon lived in here as well. And they had a grand gate, a bridge that crossed over into it. This is an original section from the Procession Street with the original glazed tiles. So this is what it would have looked like. It would have been a lot brighter and more colourful, but you can see it's hard, it's got a reflection from the glass here, but there's the lion, which would have been all down Procession Street. There's the chamomile flowers, and you had the green in the centre, where the lions would have been walking. And you got a lot of the blue going on. So that's part of the original Procession Street right there. You can see the moat. Here's your walls. You climbed over that one, and you had to deal with bow and arrows and spears. Climb up this one, down into that one. Then you get up here, then you had the maze to deal with. So this moat is obviously fed. This is the Euphrates, ran straight through on the edge. And here's the 5 courtyards of the main castle, the palace. Over here was where the throne was, where Alexander the Great died. And this is the Ishtar Gate and the main Procession Street that ran through town. That's kind of it. There's a whole heap of other gear going on. Old Saddam Hussein's palace is now built around here somewhere. They believe that the Hanging Gardens of Babylon were probably somewhere here. Babylon. Righty, just left Babylon. Farewell, Babylon. Hope you enjoyed that. I forgot to mention that Babylon, well, the empire that came before Babylonia, but here, had the first written law. So I'll read you some of them. This was the Code of Hammurabi, the first written law which he had to abide by in this town. If a man knocks out a tooth of a man of his own rank, thou shalt knock out his tooth. So kind of an eye for an eye. If you knock out the tooth of a plebeian, so just knock out the tooth of a pleb, well, then the guy that knocks out the pleb's tooth has got to pay him a third mina of silver, whatever that amounts to. So give him a little bit of like cash, but he doesn't get his tooth knocked out. Here's another one. If a man has struck a free woman with a child and caused her to miscarry, he shall pay 10 shekels for her miscarriage. If that woman dies, his daughter shall be killed. Okay. What? So they had some fun laws going on back then. Alrighty guys, thanks for coming along to Babylon. It's something I've been really wanting to get to. Wow, I mean, God, from your earliest memories you would have heard of Babylon. I did anyway, so it seems to be such a mythical place. It kind of sits there with like the lost city of Atlantis and the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. It's one of the 7 ancient wonders of the world, and I just went to it. So there's a little bucket list item ticked off. Okay, back to Baghdad.